Hello, my
Friends, today we are going to learn about a bizarre creature called the Lady of the Cachaça. Legend has it that after midnight this entity appears. A very attractive woman will appear at some crossroads. She uses her charm to persuade drunkards or alcoholics who are passing by. They convince them to go to a cooler place full of drinks and women or men. If the person accepts the invitation from this bizarre woman, in the blink of an eye, the victim will be in a place very different from what they know. A very bizarre place called the World of the Drunks. It's nothing more than an alternate reality created by the Lady of the Booze. Whoever enters there has 5 women to serve you, lots of cachaça and fun. Non-stop, feeding the person's addiction in an uncontrolled way. My man. As the days go by, the victim starts feeling more fatigued, becoming exhausted, without realizing that the beautiful women around him partying and serving him drinks. In reality, they are horrifying creatures from the underworld that are feeding on his life energy.
what a fool.
Let's suck him dry to the bone. These humans are such suckers, even stealing your life little by little without you noticing. This process can last for weeks or even months, but the end is certain, my friends, death. After that, the person's soul will be trapped in this world of the Espingocho, wandering aimlessly, searching for a way out that doesn't exist. In fact, this place is nothing more than the inside of this creature. And these souls are used as a source of energy for Lady Dapinga. Each soul stored gives her enough energy to appear at 2 more crossroads simultaneously. In other words, to increase her area of activity. Over the years, this creature significantly expands her business. The plans of the Lady of the Night are simple: to survive and multiply, exploiting the addiction of humans. So that's it, my friends. Be careful at crossroads out there and with mysterious invitations to drink somewhere else. Okay, don't accept things from strangers. I'll stop here, folks. See you in the next video. And goodbye. Hello, my friends. Today we're going to learn about a sinister creature which I'm sure will leave you amazed. It's called Car Eater. This creature is nothing more than a kind of shapeshifter that lives in big cities, taking advantage of certain practices. Shapeshifters are creatures that can change their bodies to take on other forms, making them quite dangerous beings. And difficult to identify, Car Eater gets its name from its car-like form. He noticed that there are many cities with high rates of car theft, and this would be an opportunity for him to capture his victims and feed on them. In the early morning, he locates a dangerous area of the city. He keeps the windows down and the key in the ignition to attract the attention of a thief. It's the perfect bait for this criminal who roams the night looking for a good opportunity to steal. It could be that normal people caught up in the moment end up falling into this trap too. As soon as someone sees a fancy car, one of those with the key inside, they get in and take off. Car Eater lets the victim take control for only a few minutes. What's going on here, bro? It's some kind of prank. After that, the windows close, the seat starts to sink and take on organic shapes, and the whole interior starts to grow teeth. And from then on, my friends, Car Eater fed, and took another criminal off the streets. This creature ends up being a garbage collector for criminals, man, or people with bad intentions, right? On an average night of hunting, it can get from 1 to 3 meals, right? It usually doesn't go beyond that because it would be a waste of food, you know? Hello, friends. Today we'll meet a creepy creature sure to make your hair stand on end. So, first of all, go ahead and leave your like and subscribe to the Beliza channel so you don't miss any videos. The god of Roadkill is a creature that looks like a skeleton. It has no skin on its body, only scraps of flesh, and it's bigger than a car. It has no legs, only 2 arms to help it move around, and a narrow face that looks like a mask with several eyes. I say this because you can see some stitches on the sides of the skull indicating that it was a sewn mask, right? The evidence suggests that it was a bird that suffered some trauma to its lower part and because of that died. The god of Roadkill is an avenging deity who takes revenge on drivers who run over animals on highways. Carrying a heavy feeling with him, he gets really upset and sad about the fate his animal friends suffered. Thousands of them are killed every day while trying to cross these roads. Places that used to be plains or forests now have highways cutting through their habitat. And countless cars pass by at an absurd speed, killing the animals. When witnessing such a brutal act, God of Roadkill, the deity who watches over animals, manipulates the fate of the human, altering reality and causing a breakdown. In the vehicle, the car starts showing signs of malfunction, the brakes might glitch, a tire comes off and rolls away, the steering wheel locks up, among other problems that occur, causing the fatal accident of this person. He goes to the body. If the person shows signs of life, he waits until there are none left and then feeds on the remains. This is the way God of Roadkill found to balance this equation of life. He shows himself to be a benevolent entity, helping these animals whose lives were taken to cross over to the other side and find eternal peace. So that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your like and see you next time. There was a couple who lived in a house on top of a hill. When they got married, there was a big party that lasted for an entire month. Everyone in the village said that the union of these two would last for all eternity. Until as the years went by, this couple began to change. After a few years, the husband, who was loving at first, began to mistreat his wife. She couldn't understand how that sweet person could change so much and become such a real pest. One day he came home from work and she greeted him, taking off his overcoat. She noticed a small detail on his shoulder, a mark of red lipstick. She asked what that was, if he was having an affair. Annoyed and out of control, the guy locked her in the basement and left her there, mano. He wouldn't let her out of that hole and only fed her sometimes when he remembered, right? That's because he ate out at his mistress's house and when he went home, he just slept, right? One day, the wife managed to escape from the basement. Outraged, she argued with him and started hitting the scoundrel. However, due to her weakness, she ended up going to the land of the dead as well. The next day, her husband brought his lover into the house and they started living there as if nothing had happened. Partner. Her spirit stayed there out of deep indignation and anger. Seeing such wickedness and not being able to do anything made the deceased very angry and she started to lean toward the dark side. Even though she didn't have the strength to annihilate the two lovebirds, she gathered enough strength to pour poison into their drinks. Without them noticing, the rest of the story you can probably imagine what happened, right? She managed to get rid of both of them and carry out her revenge. Since then, every male who passes by or enters this abandoned house ends up dying suddenly at the hands of the widow of the hill. Hey kid, don't go into that house, man. That's where the widow of the hill lives. Any man who goes in is doomed. Son, you don't know the story. Man, that's just nonsense, right, old man? Come on, for God's sake, right? I'm just going in here to prove there's no such thing as a spirit here, okay? Look, there's nothing here, man. That's all just nonsense. Oh, damn. Is Felipe freaking out? Oh my God, I'm getting out of here. And with that, the widow of the hill claims her victims, people who are careless or don't believe in such a supernatural entity. Carmen Winstead was a 17-year-old student who was in high school. One day, the principal of the school that the girl attended announced to everyone at the school that there would be a fire drill. That's when the alarm went off and all the students left their classrooms along with their teachers and gathered in the central courtyard. While the teachers were taking attendance, a group of 5 friends decided to play a prank on Carmen Winstead and accidentally push her into one of the nearby sewers to embarrass the young girl. In front of the whole school, the girls pushed her and she stumbled, falling awkwardly into the open manhole. Seeing her fall into the sewer, the girls started laughing at her. When Carmen's name was called by the teacher, they shouted,
"She's on the shield."
The 5 friends thought it would be a simple joke, but something went wrong. All the students started laughing at the situation. However, when the teachers looked at the sewer and saw Carmen's body lying in the filth in that filthy cubicle, the laughter stopped immediately. Carmen didn't survive the fall. There was nothing the teachers could do for her. The blunder had already been made and the perpetrators of the crime were left perplexed. In reality, they never intended to take her life. They just wanted to mess with the girl. The Revenge by Carmen Winstead. The police arrived quickly at the scene and started questioning everyone present to find out what happened. When it was the 5 friends' turn, they all stated that Carmen had slipped and accidentally fallen into that open manhole. The police believed their statements and closed the case. Weeks after this tragic event, strange emails started arriving to Carmen's classmates. The email received was titled, "They Pushed Me." The message also warned that if those responsible didn't take responsibility for her death, they would suffer terrible consequences, as well as anyone who didn't believe her story. As expected, most of the young people in her class thought it was a bad joke and ignored the warning. One night, while one of the girls who had pushed Carmen Winstead was taking a shower, she started to hear footsteps coming from inside the bathroom. Frightened, she dried off quickly and went to bed. Around 3:33 in the morning, the girl's parents heard some noises, and when they looked into their daughter's room, she wasn't there. They started searching for her all over the neighborhood, desperate, but they couldn't find her whereabouts. The next morning, a security guard made a terrible discovery. In the same manhole where Carmen had died was the lifeless body of this young woman. The same thing happened to the other 4 girls. But the deaths continued. My friends, more and more of Carmen's classmates were found. After these bizarre mass occurrences, the school declared a 30-day closure to investigate the cases. However, it was never opened again. A few centuries ago, a group of women did good for the people in their region. They gave food and healed the sick who came to their home. Any kind of health problem was solved by these 4 women. But this act of kindness attracted the attention of religious authorities. Rumors that they practiced witchcraft spread everywhere and that they used black magic for it. By seeking their help, a person would be compromising their soul to the evil one. That's what they used to say, isn't it? An incursion against these women was organized by these religious authorities to hunt down these supposed evil witches and put an end to them. A very common practice at that time was to burn anyone who dealt with magic or was associated with that practice. And it was no different with these 4 women. They went to their house, broke in, and took all 4 of them. It didn't even seem like they had helped so many people from that place. Everyone turned against them, as if they had never been helped by those same women. And so my friends swore they would take revenge on all of them and bring illnesses every 7 years. Then the spirits of the women joined with the smoke from the fire. The voices echoed, saying,
We will return and we will take revenge. We will return.
Then 7 years later, on a calm night, the windstorm started out of nowhere, knocking down trees and ripping doors off. A thick red mist took over the small town. It entered the homes, taking over the place, making people start to cough and get sick. Drool ran down as their eyes reddened. The victims grew dizzy and collapsed, writhing. To break this curse, the ones who caused the attack must offer their lives as a sacrifice, an apology to break this cycle of despair. The Hugger is a thin, white, faceless creature that hangs like a puppet. When it was first seen, people thought it was a Halloween decoration, but it was August and Halloween only happens in October. The puppet's purpose is to deceive its prey by dancing and entertaining, until the moment when everyone lets their guard down and it's too late. It performs various little dances, captivating any kind of audience and capturing them. But if it's a puppet, who's controlling it? They say the one controlling it is a giant hairy spider that's always hiding. The spider uses the puppet to lure people into its trap and kill them. There are many theories about where the spider came from and how it got so big. The most popular theory says that maybe this spider was the result of an experiment that went wrong in a laboratory, where the spider was probably taken for scientific testing. Then something went wrong, causing it to get bigger and bigger. Seeing this, the scientists in the laboratory didn't know what to do, so they had to release it into the world. But since this scientific experiment was being done secretly by a private laboratory, the public didn't know about it. However, when the attacks began, people became aware of this bizarre creature. Its exoskeleton is very tough, made up of a very rigid wall. However, it's not indestructible. It takes a lot of people with heavy weaponry to take down this bizarre entity. Flamethrowers usually have more effect against this colossal insect. Even after it's dead, you should make sure there are no eggs inside this creature. If there are any and they go unnoticed, you can be sure that the Hugger will resurface. Hello my friends, today I'm going to tell you a story about a bizarre creature which actually I think is more of a thing. It's called the Wizard's Hat. Better known as the Wizard Hat, it's an apparently ordinary hat that becomes more dangerous to people who touch it. Usually this hat is used in themed decorations, right? But the real purpose of this unusual hat is to create other artifacts that are just as powerful as the one that made it, not losing any of its magical properties over time. If by chance some careless person touches it, they will quickly be consumed by a desire to put it on their head. A terrible mistake, partner. As soon as the hat is put on, it will immediately drive spikes into the victim's skull, gaining access to the brain, making its removal almost impossible. Once inside the brain, it has access to the person's imagination, right? Cataloging and listing the items that will be necessary to create the artifact the host imagined. With each item created, the victim loses a year of their life. Every time a new item is created, the hat makes the victim want to create more, making them dissatisfied with their previous creations. It's worth remembering that the victims, before they die, create about 40 or 50 magic items, which can be used by anyone. Removing the hat is possible if you cut the thorns stuck in the skull. In the best case scenario, she will be left with irreversible brain damage. But usually the victim does not survive. The second method is to make the victim's heart stop and let the hat come off on its own. However, it's very risky. The person would need someone so that at the moment the hat comes off, they could pull it away from the victim, preventing it from attaching again, right? Getting rid of the hat is simple since it's made of organic material. It wouldn't withstand being incinerated. The problem is keeping the hat out of reach of other people, right? There are rumors that the object that created the hat is still hidden out there. In other words, my friends, if you see it, then it's a weird hat. Don't put it on your head, okay? Otherwise, things could go bad for you. Thanks. See you next video. Bye. Hello, my friends. Today we're going to learn about a bizarre creature called Megahorn. This creature is nothing more than another variant of the siren lineage. When you look at this bizarre creature, you notice it stands 5 meters tall and is considerably more obese than its relatives. Its most notable feature is its giant belly and square-shaped siren, which is where it feeds from. Because of its size and obesity, it has several limbs that help it move around. This creature doesn't walk upright like a biped. Instead, it moves more like a spider. You know what I mean? With 2 extra limbs to help it. This made the people who encountered this creature believe it was a giant spider. It doesn't have a preference for specific places or food. Its diet consists of anything it can find in front of it. People, animals of any size, and even other monsters. It's a real glutton since it doesn't even spare monsters of its own kind. When it eats another siren, something unusual happens. The size of its body increases by about 30% and more limbs appear on its torso. So if you see a siren with a body that looks like a fat centipede, will you know it's Megahorn? To defeat this creature, fire-based attacks are the only way to succeed, and facing this creature with that giant siren is not easy. So my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your like, okay? Bye. Hello my friends, today we're going to learn the story of a sinister creature called Rush. It's shown in theaters worldwide. Normally he sits in empty chairs and if he hears someone talking he will give a warning. If they keep making noise he will speak behind the person saying it's better to be quiet and pay attention to the movie. If the person insists there won't be a third warning. He will silence them so that no sound can come out of the person's throat. Only the noises made by their chair or cell phone will be heard. In this case, Rush will completely ignore the other person's desperation, and only when the movie ends will the sound of their voice return to normal. Anyone who looks at Rush will only see an ordinary person, but in reality there is a creature there. Rush was once an ordinary person like anyone else and ended up becoming a creature. He was a movie fanatic, but one day someone was making a lot of noise in the theater, which is something we often see, right? So he asked them to be quiet, but the person started an argument. After the incident, the noisy guy was removed from the theater. A few days later, this person came back wanting to get revenge for what had happened. He came to confront Rush, so he entered the same movie theater where Rush was and stealthily pulled a knife from his pocket, attacking Rush. The criminal was carrying gasoline and used it to set the entire theater on fire. He died as was to be expected, right? But he came back because he had unfinished business. He's not bad, he just wants silence to rewatch the movies one last time before disappearing. There was never a case where Rush eliminated anyone. He only has the ability to silence people for making noise during the movie. There was a case where Rush managed to silence a man for 3 days because he ignored people's warnings to be quiet. And after being silenced, that man still threw popcorn at others. Rush was probably teaching him a lesson. The authorities discovered through cameras that a creature appeared sitting in the movie theater during the screening and that it could only be seen through the cameras. Over the weeks, they noticed that the creature was helping to maintain order in the theater, keeping silence and even protecting people from dangers like fights. Seeing these beneficial actions that the creature performed, they decided to keep it as a form of security. So my friends, be careful when you go to the movies and open your bag of chips or eat popcorn, because otherwise you might be silenced by Rush. Imagine you're in a tunnel and suddenly you come across a bizarre creature that looks like a worm. And as you pass through that mouth, you're teleported to another place on the planet. We're talking about Fairy Gate or the Fairy Gate. It's a creature previously unknown. It resembles a giant worm. Because it lives in narrow places, it's hard to measure its length. Blind and with its mouth always open, rows and rows of sharp teeth are clearly visible. It has tentacles that wrap around. Its body fluids are toxic, man, and it uses suction as a form of defense. Even though its mouth is always open, the monster appears to be motionless. Its movement speed is very slow, comparable to a slug. But why is this creature called the Fairy Gate? Precisely because its teeth resemble mushroom rings, which in Celtic mythology represent a portal to the world of fairies. These creatures are predominantly found in caves or underground pathways. With human evolution, these creatures started to become more common in the sewers. For a scavenger, this is a perfect habitat. Normally, it feeds on organic remains and other products that reach it. Its tentacles are not strong and agile enough to grab its prey. The thing is, if by chance a silver coin falls into its mouth, it will trigger an allergic reaction in the creature. The vacuum of its suction will double in strength and the crazy guy will come from the back of its mouth, causing a distortion in the fabric of human space, which will cause pain to the creature. If by chance you enter the creature's mouth at that moment, you will be teleported to another fairy gate, somewhere else in the world. Apparently, these creatures are connected, functioning as a portal, or more commonly known as a wormhole. This knowledge became public due to a strange event that happened to Alfred Stanley. He reports that he was in a tunnel when suddenly he saw this creature. He felt dizzy from the strange smell that the creature was emitting. And when he realized it, he was in the creature's mouth. He had a silver coin in his pocket, and when he was trying to get away from the creature's teeth, it slipped out and fell into its mouth. With everything I've told you so far happening, he showed up in a completely different place on the other side of the world, and there was one of those creatures nearby. That's when the authorities concluded that these creatures are like a portal, actually, several portals scattered around the world. So, my friends, if you're out there in a tunnel in some strange place and you see this creature, be careful, because if you don't have a silver coin and get bitten by it, that's it. See that sliding toy? Look more closely. It's known as extra slide. For us here in Brazil, it's a slide. It's a shapeshifter monster. This creature likes to attack defenseless children and also distracted adults. It always appears at night, never during the day, because there are too many people around and that could put its life at risk. Its victims are most of the time easy prey. It was mentioned for the first time by a man who was coming back from work. As he was passing by a neighborhood playground, he felt something different. That night, the man saw a new slide that had been put there and was blocking the path of the running track. He didn't think much about it and left. The next morning, he passed by the park, and to his surprise, the slide wasn't there. He thought he was going crazy or seeing things because he hadn't been sleeping much. His workload was leaving him very exhausted. On his way back home, he passed by the place and to his surprise, saw the slide again. He was confused. He got closer to check the object more carefully, turned on his phone's camera and saw something fleshy. The toy seemed to be alive. The man then saw the eyes of the slide and ran away, terrified. The next day he brought a friend along who was curious about the story. Wanting to investigate the creature, his friend climbed onto the toy, and as soon as he slid down, the tube closed the exit. It seemed like the slide was chewing the guy up inside. This incident confirmed the theory that the toy also attacks adults, a shapeshifter that pretends to be children's toys in search of easy victims, using the end of the tube as a mouth to grind up its food and eyes positioned on top to watch whoever comes near. It can easily change its size according to its needs since the creature is a shapeshifter, right? Always check the toys you use in parks because you might be close to this creature.